Back at it, folks, and as promised, the quarter glass has been pulled out, and let me tell you, these are a pain. If you can find a glass guy, have a glass guy pull it. If you want to mess with it, by all means, have at it. I mean, I'm not a glass guy. I don't deal much with glass, but get them separated. Whew, my heart goes out to you if you attempt. I won't spend too much time about pulling glass, but it is a necessary step in this wide body. For one, the rubber seal comes right up to about 1 millimeter off of this fiberglass, and we got to do some body work right here. So with this seal gone, we have all the access to make this fitment flush. To remove all the inner panels that surround that area, the C pillar, B pillar, the lower, and also the entire back of the back seat, that as hot as you can, and either fish some wire through it or do what I did, which is heat it up, get the glue as soft as possible, coming in through this side and just cut. And of course the plastic surround is, well, plastic, and if you get it too hot, it will cook. So yes, it was a pain. If you guys can get these things out less than 3 hours on each side, my hat's off to you. There we are, just a fine point Sharpie. There's no need to jam in there. I know that that's going to match up, but just for theatrics, here we go. Okay, match all the way around. Whoops, there you go. Back up here. Now we're going to remove all those set screws. Now remove the panel. There we go. That's what we're looking for, that black line. With the panel out, next thing, here's what I'm looking for. You see how see this panel where it's just your naturally finished fiberglass, and then we have these flat areas, or it might be a flat area and then a really low raw edge. Okay, this is what I'm looking for here. I know this gets real close to the car. That can also double as a gluing surface, and all that body work that I did featuring that orange tape, here's that. You get this flat molded surface. So let's just call that 1.5 inches, right? 1.5 inches. I'm talking about a gluing surface, 1.5 inches. This here, obviously that's about 1 inch. You get to this here, this is the door jamb. That door jamb is going to be glued all the way up to the edge of the OEM panel, so that I can tell is right up to here. So again, 1.5 inches all the way through here, all the way around. Okay, go back over here. Call that 1.5 inches, 1.5 inches. A little tight over here. That will just get a little bead of glue there. Here we go, 1.5 inches, 1.5 inches. Now that I have a good idea of the inner contact surface of the wide body panel from the edge that I just made with a Sharpie, I went ahead and measured from that line. Again, that one panel is right about 1 inch. the one that goes along the seam, and then this C-pillar here, that's again 1.5 inches. So I made a dot a little further out. For all those dots, let's connect them together. Okay, now that I've drawn the edge of the panel and then the inner edge of the gluing surface, all of this that's inside between these two lines is going to get ground down to the metal. The reason why I made these borders here is, one, I don't want to ground off any more than I have to. We've got that marked section ground off. What I mean by that is the paint is ground down to the bare metal. The glue that we're going to use works really well with bare metal and fiberglass. So we have this smaller strip ground off, then we transition to this wider strip all the way to the end, tail, small line here, and then again all of this is going to get glued in. Disc I used is this Wagner paint eater. This grain that you see here, that's done with a 40 grit on a roll-off disc. We want to create a really coarse substrate for the glue to grab onto. I have the fender back on. This time we're going to remark that edge. Okay, and here's why I keep saying 1.5 inch. 1.5 inch wide tape. The panel has been removed. Paint surface has been sanded down to 220 grit. Pilot holes made for rivets. The Sharpie marker has been marked down for the edge of where the body panel sits up at. And this tape is to mask off bare metal where this body panel will mate up to. So think of that orange, look at that orange, and that's the contact surface that we're going to get out of this. That's where the body panel is going to rest on. All the way there, a large chunk here, and all of that back panel. Remember, this is going to have a panel on it. We won't have access to it after the glue sets. So whatever we have under here has to endure the long road without any access, unless we cut this whole panel off, and you know, that's just a mess. So with this bare metal, I've got SEM primer, self-etching primer. Again, I'm just concentrating on the bare metal, on what's inside of the panel. I'm not really concerned about exposed metal here because we can tend to that. But once this goes on, we won't have access to any of this. Now that the stock rear fenders are painted, clear coated, taped off, we can start with the next step. Now let's glue the panels on. This is SEM 39747 dual mix. This has a 90-minute work time, perfect for a large panel like this. Again, I'm going to cover all of the raw metal. Here's the bead of panel bond applied to the metal. I'm just going to squeegee it. See how that kind of spreads over the exposed metal. Now you got paint. Now I'm not completely scraping this off. This is leaving a really thick layer. Panels are glued up. They are set. All the key pins are holding it in place. It's going to sit like this for maybe about 24 hours, and then we can remove those screws and replace the screws with rivets. Now, one thing that's overlooked, I've mentioned, was these corner, I don't know what to call that. I guess those little corner flares. Like how far out should they be in or out? One of them, this particular one, had to be out so far so that it flows with the side skirt. I'll show you what I mean. Straight, you see how it comes out just the tiniest bit there. It's not terrible. I can fix that, but in order to get it somewhat reasonable, I had to kick this out so much. So that in turn meant the passenger side also had to do the exact same position, regardless if that flowed or not. And I know it does flow, I've already test fitted it. But the question is how to get this side to stick out the exact same as the other. So the body is one thing to take a measurement from, but this had been in some sort of accident where the skin on this side had to be replaced. So I don't know if this had moved or not. So the one way you can go about it is go by the subframe, and that's just a measure from something from that both sides have. In this case, this nut, I'm putting the end right to the nut, and that checks out right at 18 inch. And then since I'm here, while I'm at it, I'll measure this other one here. I'll go to the end of that joint and then down to here. So we have 29 1/4 there. Matches there. And again, same thing here. $29 1/4. So based on the subframe, the corners of both sides match or identical, and then we'll model the body after it. And everything's glued up, all set. Right now we're waiting on the glue to cure. All the excess has been ground off. For now, this will sit for 2 days. Let it cure, get hard.